welcome back to What the H Are You Reading? I'm your host, Brian Heinz. And we're going to dive right into the month of May 2021 with 4 quickie reviews, one from each week. And we're going to start with week 1 and Heroes Reborn, #1 from Marvel Comics. Now this is an Avengers tie-in event that's happening weekly by the regular creative team of Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness. All of a sudden, Blade, the vampire hunter, finds himself in a world with no Avengers. Instead, the Squadron Supreme, a group of heroes being controlled by an evil Phil Coulson in league with Mephisto. Don't ask me to explain, I can't. Anyway, the Squadron is now America's super team. Anyway, Hyperion, not Superman, is taking on Dr. Doom, now empowered by the Ruby of Sitarak, and he's become Dr. Juggernaut. Nighthawk, not Batman, takes on the venom-infused Black Skull. Dr. Spectrum, not Green Lantern, is patrolling space, etc., etc. Blade eventually confronts Nightwing with the truth that the world has been altered and then goes on about rebuilding the Avengers. And that's basically the only story we've gotten for 5 issues. I mean, seriously, they're up to issue 5 of a weekly book. And while there's a backup in every story drawn by Ed McGuinness about Blade slowly rebuilding the Avengers, the majority of issues 2 through 5 has been following one member of the Squadron Supreme around their life as they interact with the new reality and slowly realize things aren't right. These are $5 comics, and we've got nothing but filler stories for the last 4 issues. I get it. Jason Aaron, I loved the original 1980s Mark Gruenwald Squadron Supreme. I understand you want to do a Squadron Supreme story yourself. I would if I were in your position. But I feel ripped off. I came here for an alternate reality House of M style story with the Avengers versus the Squadron Supreme, but all you've given me so far are a bunch of meaningless stories where the Squadron fight altered versions of Marvel villains while Blade fishes Steve Rogers out of the Atlantic and finds Thor's hammer. Now, for a long time, Jason Aaron was one of the best writers at Marvel. His Wolverine and the X-Men run is a favorite of mine. And I've heard nothing but good things about his run on Thor, which culminated in War of the Realms, one of the best events I've ever read. And his Avengers run started out so strong and looked like it was building up a lot of threads, not the least of which was the Mephisto-backed Squadron Supreme taking on the Avengers. This title is supposed to be that payoff, but it feels like it's really wasting my time. In fact, since War of Realms, it really feels like Aaron has been phoning it in on Avengers with meaningless arcs about finding the new Starbrand and the new Phoenix. And the whole Avengers vs. Moon Knight story was just awful. Boring, mediocre. There's no more fun or surprise like in the early issues. I keep wanting to drop Avengers, but I keep convincing myself it will get better. But I think I need to quit reading Avengers once Heroes Reborn ends. I'm going to Fantastic Four you, Avengers. I'm sorry, Jason Aaron. I know this isn't how you wanted to hear we're breaking up, but Heroes Reborn sucks. Don't get this miniseries. It's really bad. That said, the art by Ed McGuinness is as good as it always is. Crisp, cartoonish, but fun and energetic. I can't complain about his art, but again, he only draws the first issue and then short backup tales in issues 2 through 5. I'm not sure how long this miniseries is supposed to go on, but it feels like it's been going on forever. Now, some of you might be wondering what I meant when I said, I'm going to Fantastic Four you. Well, I'll explain with week 2 and Fantastic Four number 32. See, I was really enjoying Dan Slott's run on Fantastic Four, but then he did this overly long story that set them on another planet, and they tweaked the Fantastic Four's origin, and it just wouldn't end, and it was really bad, so I stopped reading Fantastic Four. Then Empire hit, and I picked up the Slott-written Empire Fantastic Four one-shot, which introduced 2 new characters, a boy Kree and a girl Skrull, who end up becoming the foster children for the Thing and his wife Alicia. I really liked the new dynamic for the Grimm family enough that I decided to get caught up on the book, and I've since returned to Fantastic Four, still written by Slott, with fantastic art by R.B. Silva. Seriously, this book is gorgeous. This guy is one of the best artists out there right now. So, where are we now? Johnny Storm came back from that one planet with a soulmate named Skye, a winged woman who was a warrior on her world. But the Skrull named Lyja has returned to Earth. Now, she's Johnny's ex-wife whom he married when he thought she was Alicia back when Ben was off-planet. So the family gets invited to an art show at the Ladverian Embassy, guarded by Dr. Doom's superpowered subordinate, a woman named Victorious, because the art is featuring some of Alicia's work. But 2 Skies show up, and Johnny's date turns out to be Lyja, who's impersonating Skye to spend time with Johnny. Not complicated at all, right? The embassy is attacked, and all of Johnny's women join him to fight back the terrorists. with Elijah pointing out that Sky is just from some small podunk planet, and Johnny has been all over the universe and has such a big worldview. How could he possibly be happy with her? After the battle, Sky flies off angry, and Johnny tells Elijah to pack her bags and leave. She agrees to leave, but we see that it's actually Alicia Masters using her evil stepfather's mind control clay, which I really don't have time to explain to you. Just Google Marvel and Puppet Master and you'll get caught up. But she forces Elijah to leave. Now, Alicia really crosses a line here, taking away Elijah's free will, but I get why she did it. Elijah has impersonated her in the past, and it was freaking out her children who knew about this and were afraid that she might take their new mom away from them. But she does all this without Ben knowing. And upset about the fight with Sky, Johnny makes the mistake of sleeping with Victorious, who gets a holographic call from Dr. Doom. He's leaving for space for a while, as seen over the Guardians of the Galaxy title, and needs someone to rule Latveria while he's gone. In order to legitimize her rule, he asks her to marry him. She agrees, with Johnny hiding under her bed. There's also a backup story where Reed Richards and Dr. Doom fight a duel by Latverian standards, which Doom wins. Thus, he's allowed to ask for a favor from the man he beats. So he asks Reed Richards to be his best man for his upcoming wedding. It's drawn by Javier Rodriguez, who's previously drawn Spider-Woman and Daredevil. Rodriguez has a more stylized look that's clearly based on the work of Jack Kirby. And since Kirby created the Fantastic Four, Javier's art is perfect for the flashbacks of Doom and Reed in college, and isn't terribly out of place with the events taking place in modern time. There's a lot covered in this one issue. We deal with 3 of Johnny's paramours, as well as Alicia and Ben's protectiveness of their new kids, and how far they should and shouldn't go in that pursuit. And touching on Doom and Reed's rivalry, the fact that even if they're not friends, Doom clearly considers Reed important and worthy of his attention in some small way. Yes, there is a lot happening in this book, but in that arc that I didn't like, that drove me away from the book, there was barely anything happening. It was all adventure but no character development, and it was really boring. I like when there are a lot of plates being spun. I like when there are a lot of threads interwoven. I can see how they all interact. For me, the adventures of the Fantastic Four aren't nearly as satisfying as the family dynamic. They're a family, and even with powers, they have to interact with each other and this world around them. Lots of drama and action, humor and personality, and I really want to know what happens when Doom finds out Johnny lay with his fiancée. This is a fun read, great arc, and it's a good time to jump on because it's the beginning of a new arc. I really recommend Fantastic Four. Just, you can skip that one arc. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in the... But yeah, you can skip that. Nothing came of that other than Sky being introduced. Now for week 3, it's Wonder Girl #1. Well, if you saw my review of Future State Wonder Woman, and if you haven't, go watch it now. I'll wait. Now, you know how excited I am for this book based on that review. The first canonical appearance, outside of a brief thing in Infinite Frontier #0, of Yara Fleur. This book opens with a flashback of an Amazon tribe being wiped out by a group of men in Centurion-style armor. Their leader is about to kill a young child, but her mother trades her life for this girl. And that girl is, you guessed it, Yara. Yara is then spirited away by her aunt and grows up in the United States. Now grown up, Yara is flying back to Brazil so that she can take a heritage tour and get to know her home country. Meanwhile, Queen Nubia of Themyscira, the goddess Hera, and Queen Faruka, leader of a splinter group of Amazons, are all overcome by a strange sensation. A sensation shared by the heroes, villains, and even some of the ordinary people of the world as Yara returns home. There's some light flirting with her tour bus driver, and then they come upon a traffic accident, and Yara bolts out of the door to pull a man out of his overturned car, which explodes moments later. Elsewhere, Hera is sending the god Eros to find Yara. Nubia is sending Amazons to remove Yara from Brazil, and Faruka is sending assassins because Yara's presence in Brazil leaves them vulnerable to Hera, although the reasons for these moves are not explained. While visiting some waterfalls, Yara hears singing from a whirlpool, and before she can react, the bolo weapon we saw her wielding as Wonder Woman in Future State shoots out of the water, wraps around her, and drags her down. And the issue ends with Yara underwater, staring into the face of a mermaid. I won't go into details about everything I loved about this book, because I covered a lot of that in a Future State review, but I love everything about this book. The art is great, the coloring is great, Joelle Jones handles action scenes well and writes her characters larger than life but still believable. I can't wait to see just what Yara is doing that's setting all these powerful women off. I'm pretty sure that this book is going to be one of my favorites going forward, no question. Now, even if you didn't read Future State Wonder Woman, and if you didn't, you can just check out my review. I'll wait. No. But even if you didn't read that comic, I still recommend you pick up Wonder Girl #1, but you should read Future State Wonder Woman, because it's just 2 more issues of Joelle Jones doing her thing with Yara, and that's a fun read. And finally, for week 4, it's the Stargirl Spring Break Special. Well, one of my favorite new TV shows of last year was Stargirl, based on the title that gave Geoff Johns his start in DC Comics. Okay, elephant in the room. I know Jeff isn't the most popular guy right now for his reported indifference to Joss Whedon's bullying of Ray Fisher and others on the set of Justice League, but I'm only a humble comic reviewer. Now, if you don't feel comfortable reading a Geoff Johns book right now, I understand, but I will give you an honest review of what I thought of the book, regardless of my personal thoughts on Mr. Johns' failings. So anyway, I really enjoyed the Stargirl TV show, so much so that I reviewed an important story in her history when I did my review of JSA number 81. You know what, we're almost done. Just check that review out after the episode. This special is written by Johns and drawn by Todd Nauck of Young Justice fame, and he also drew the Satellite of Love segments on the MST3K comic book, which I also reviewed. You can anyway. Stargirl and her stepdad, who pilots the armor Stripe, reunite with the Vigilante, and they form a new Seven Soldiers group and plunge into the history of the original Seven Soldiers. They travel to California to meet Vigilante and team up with the modern-day Crimson Avenger, Green Arrow, and his sister Red Arrow, and even the Shining Knight to take on the time-traveling villain, the Clock King. But since Courtney, Stargirl, and Red Arrow are teenagers, they get left behind, but decide to start their own investigation. The pair eventually stumble upon an all-out battle with the Clock King and the Seven Soldiers, and the classic Seven Soldiers in a sort of time-crossed team-up. It's at this point they learn that there was an 8th soldier in the group, Wing, the sidekick to the original Crimson Avenger. But everyone thinks he's dead. In fact, he is dead because they check and his body's there. But by the end of this special, Courtney and Red Arrow agree to team up and go looking for him anyway, as they were told by the Crimson Avenger to find him. This will eventually lead into a new series for Stargirl, and there's a 3-page tease in the back for the long-awaited relaunch of Justice Society, written by Johns, with art by Brian Hitch, although I don't know if Brian will be drawing the Justice Society book when it goes monthly, because he just signed on to be the new artist on Venom over at Marvel Comics. This is a fun enough book, but I think they're banking on a lot of goodwill from the TV show, as it's a lot of characters from that center stage when they haven't really been seen in the DC universe for a while now. So essentially we're getting a 64-page special with Stargirl, Stripe, Green Arrow, and then a whole bunch of C-list characters that we haven't seen for a long time front and center. Now, the art by Nauck is cartoonish but very well drawn. He draws an animated style, but handles action scenes and characters well. It's an oversized one-shot, so it's $6, and frankly, I would have been happier with a shorter book and a $4 cover price. The book is a tad overwritten. Like, the whole opening is 4 or 5 pages of the Green Arrow and his sister explaining why and how the Green Arrow traveled back in time with Speedy to become a member of the original Seven Soldiers of Victory. That could have been handled in one panel, but it was stretched out to 4 or 5 pages. It just didn't need to be this long. It's an okay book. It's a decent book. Not great. Do I recommend you get it? Only if you really, really, really love the Stargirl character. Otherwise, I'd skip it. Okay, my friends, that's it for the month of May 2021. Join me next month in July when I'll review this month, which is June. Not complicated at all. Hey, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please check out my Patreon. Until then, my friends, this is What the H Are You Reading? And I'm your host, Brian Heinz.